I don't think I'll ask you to be upstanding, but certainly a very, very warm round of applause. The special guest has arrived tonight, and it is being accompanied by local racing identity, in fact, long-term Warrnambool Standard racing and sports writer Tim Old. And he is about to walk in now, and please make him welcome with the 2023 Melbourne Cup. And going at this speed, it'll be about 9 o'clock before those in the back pocket get to see it, I would imagine. But that's okay. The White Glove Mover. $600,000 it is valued at, the Melbourne Cup. I think I read the other day that the 1985 Melbourne Cup, which is here tonight as well, was valued at $23,000 at the time. So, Tim, just give it a little peek round the corner. There you go. That might do. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for the 2023 Melbourne Cup in Port Fairy tonight. And I might make, there's the first bit of housekeeping. That second gentleman who just came in then very actively, he's not speaking tonight, but he is keeping an evil eye on every one of you. That is Simon Ogden, who is the VRC's head of security. He is a man messed with, and if anyone takes a step out of line, you're going to have to reckon with him throughout the evening. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our first guest speaker tonight with the official welcomes. Please do make welcome to the lectern the Port Fairy Cricket Club president, a very good friend of mine, as I said before, over many, many decades, Steve Dwyer. Please make him welcome.
Cheers, mate. Go well, mate. You'll be right. Thank you, Bruce. Bruce is an old hand at Melbourne Cup events, running many at Calcutta for my family back in West Brunswick. We won't talk about how some of those nights ended up, Bruce. Not yet, maybe later. But all I will recommend to the guests later on tonight, maybe check the cubicles before you leave, just to make sure everyone's left the building. Tonight is an amazing night for not just the town of Port Fairy, but for the Port Fairy Cricket Club as well. We've had the honour of hosting the 2023 Lexus Melbourne Cup Tour in town today. I don't know if a lot of people have seen what went on, but there's some photos and videos that'll be up on the screens later today of what really has been an amazing event that involved the whole community, not just the cricket club. So that was the best part of it. We've had a good, 6 or 7 hours with the cup now, and tonight we really get to finish off strong with a big 4-hour event here at the Wharf. So I'll just start off. On my speech is going to be mainly thank yous, and then I'll get out of the road and leave it to the professionals. I'd like to thank. Obviously, we'll start with the VRC, Joe McGrath, the Cup Tour Manager, and Jemima Lyons of Public Relations, Alice and Jesse that were down with the Cup today are here tonight, Simon Ogden, or as they call him at the Consolidated School, the Cup Guy. We've got Des Gleeson, Ambassador of the Cup, and our VRC representative, Dr. Andrew Lemon. Thank you for everything today, guys. You were unreal. Anything we asked for, you were quite happy to help with. So fantastic. A round of applause for the VRC people today. Thank you, guys. We had you on boats. We had you in school, up at the hospital. down at the cricket club, whatever we asked for, you were only too willing to help. We couldn't ask for a better group of people. Thank you very much. To my Cup Tour organising committee, I'd like to thank the chair of that committee, Bruce Leishman. We borrowed him from the Folk Festival for his main event organisational skills, and he kept it all together when Wally Sheehan, OAM, and Councillor Damien Gleeson, who came up with these great ideas along with Tim Auld. So we have to thank Tim as well. But Wally and Damien came up with today's program and event schedule, and then 2 days later said, see you later, we're off to Europe. So thanks to Bruce for holding it all together. And our liaison with the VRC today was Michael Robertson, who's the cricket club treasurer. He did a fantastic job. Anything the VRC guys needed, he was there. So thank you to Michael as well, and well done today. Sean Cullen provided some publicity through the Ace Radio network, and Josh Hill did a little bit of liaisoning with our friends at Fitz Media. Just finally, I'd just like to rattle off a few thank yous from the actual community today. We had Bob Hanby and Judy Pollock, who were on hand to accept the cup at various stages today. Bob's a great humanitarian with the Red Cross, and Judy's obviously a former Olympian, and just great people in their own right. We've had the Surf Life Saving Club, and Sean Murray, he performed a great service welcoming the cup this morning when we had Anne McDwyer and Leo McGrath on the 2 horses, one of them Tears I Cry, a massive winner in its own right, bringing the cup down the beach, East Beach. It's just some iconic vision has been recorded today of those 2 horses and the cup. We've had Port Fairy Marine Rescue, Grant Brett Bedwell and Russell Lemke. We had the cup out on the boat going up the river near the lighthouse for some great shots as well. Des and Dr. Lemon loved that part of the trip. Moyne Shire received the cup with a great speech from Deputy Mayor Daniel Mead. Thanks to the Moyne Shire for their support. Port Fairy SES provided a couple of vehicles for the entourage today. So thanks to Hannah and Neil Hedger. To our schools, St Patrick's and Port Fairy Consolidated, couldn't have asked for a more welcoming day from their students and principals. So thanks to those schools, and to Moyne Health, we were able to get up to Moyniana House, and just the looks on the guys up there, the people in the actual hospital, they were like over the moon. Apparently they'd been talking about the cup for days. So just to see the reception we received from the community today has been awe-inspiring. At times it's been just great to be part of. So I'd just like to thank also everyone here tonight. Your support of the event has been amazing, and it just proves that little places like Port Fairy and little clubs like the Cricket Club can actually roll up the sleeves and get things done when we want to. I'd just like to also call up Wally Sheehan. He's going to say a few words about our special guest tonight, and I'd just like to, hopefully everyone enjoys proceedings and has a great night. Thank you very much.
It won't happen. Rightio, I'm just here to welcome all the special guests. So, first of all, to welcome everyone that's here. But obviously, the Ambassador, Desi Gleeson, where are you, Desi? Thank you very much indeed. To Dr. Andrew Lemon and the other guests from the VRC, thank you very much as well. To the Hyland family, to Marie, Pat's wife, thank you very much. And the rest of the family. Pat's sister Teresa, that's the first one on my list, Kerry. I've got Mari McDonald as well, thank you Mari. To David here in front and his wife Janice. To brother-in-law Pat Ryan, thank you Pat. And of course, how can I forget 2 sons Matthew, wherever you are, somewhere, they're there. And Sam, wherever you are, down on my right somewhere, I know. And I've got to thank Sam. He's been so helpful as far as putting this together. He's just been amazing. Then I go on to Nick Williams. So Nick, I know you're down on my right somewhere. Thank you very much for a bloke that rang you 3 months ago about coming down here and said to you that thanks very much for being part of things, but I'm going away for 2 months, so I'll ring you when I get back, and which I did, and you said to me, where the hell have you been? But apart from all them hassles, thanks for bringing the 1985 What a Nuisance Melbourne Cup as part of the 7 winners that your father and you have had. So welcome, Nick, very much indeed. To the little man that rode against Pat Hyland for so much on my left, Neville Wilson. To you and Carol, you're so much at Port Fairy, being from Camperdown. And I know, mate, you had a great day last Saturday as well as me with the Pies winning. To Frankie Beattie. Frank, I think you're down on my right, I think. Steward for so long in this area. To, I've got to welcome Bruce, he's on my list. To Timmy Old and Timmy, wherever you're gone to, somewhere. He is, there he is. Sorry, Tim. You're so much part of this because you, along with Damien, to put this idea together to bring the Cup to Port Fairy. Yeah, well done. I've got to welcome Colin and Janice McKenna. No, Colin, what you do in this area is so important to everyone, you know, and I know you don't like this, but that's just the way it is. So thank you and congratulations. Thank you. I've got to welcome, we've got 2 councillors tonight. Daniel Mead over the back there. I think Daniel and Damien Gleeson here on my left. Is that right? Oh, yeah, no, I haven't got there yet. Jeez, I'm getting, and jeez. And of course, I've got to welcome the CEO as well, and I thank you very much. You're part of today up at the Surf Club, so thank you very much indeed for that as well. The chairman of the Wannell Racing Club, Mark McNamara, and Luke Cann, thank you very much as well. The end of my list, the organising committee, and as well as, I've lost the other page, Bruce, and the Wharf, I thank very much indeed. Sean and his team have been nothing so easy to work with and all that. But we get to the other side of things. You'll see you've got a quiz there tonight. So, all right, no, that's the menu. You'll get the quiz. All right, just listen for a sec. When you do this to get the Melbourne Cup to come to Port Fairy, there's a charity involved. So to fill you in more with that, we're in a joint thing with Koroit, have got the cup tomorrow. So they'll probably explain it to us later, but Port Fairy will get, they're one of, there's 41 venues around Australia the cup's going to, but 24 in country Victoria. And each of them will get nominated a barrier, right? So when they do the barrier draw and all that, so say we got barrier 12, and barrier 12, I'm just going back in the old times, is Jamaica. And Jamaica is running the cup. So Jamaica is running for Port Fairy and Koroit. If Jamaica happens to win the Melbourne Cup, it's $50,000 to share between the 2 charities. Now, our charity is the Heather Holcomb Day. Now, I've just got to tell you, and I'll get emotional here. I don't need them now. Heather Holcomb was a good friend of mine. Died 8 days after her 40th birthday on the 13th of November 2000. So ever since then, there's been a fundraiser at the a few venues, but the Star of the West the last 15 years on Melbourne Cup Day to raise money for, I've gone blank, for cancer and all that, right? So that's our charity. So if you can imagine 100 people at the Star of the West on Melbourne Cup Day, all barracking for Jamaica, right? What that's going to bring in, you know, because it's $25,000 to that charity. So the quiz we've got there now, we'll vow and declare, I've said to Bruce, Bruce organised the quiz. No one will get it, and that's not the point of the exercise. We want you to have a go. No phones involved, right? This is bloody fair income, jeez. We don't want you to bloody cheat. Nifty will get that. It's all about, they'll be here in a minute, and you'll get an envelope in a minute. It's $5 entry fee, but you can put in whatever you like. You want to put $100 in for the Heather Holcomb Day, you can, because that's what it's all about. All right? Because whatever comes in tonight, the cricket club will match to go towards the Heather Holcomb Day. So it's not about a winner. It's obviously to see if you know anything. Bruce said to me today, how many questions is there, Bruce? Is there 15? Where are you, mate? Is there 15? If someone got 10, they're a super nerd. All right? But don't use your phones. So look, thank you. And I'm going to hand back to Bruce. Thank you very much. Thanks, buddy. Great stuff.
Thanks, Wally. As you can tell, Wally's already worn out the batteries in the first microphone. We've been told to change over from our excellent AV crew tonight. How's that How is that actually going? Can we hear down the back? Is that all good? Here over to the side? Right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in fact, another round of applause for Wally Sheen and Steve Dwyer for... Now, folks, a little bit of housekeeping. We were remiss of missing right at the start before our next special guest, before we do break for dinner. By the way, with the quiz, if you were betting, you'd think the Hyland family table would be paying about $1.60 at the moment, I would imagine. I haven't seen the questions, but anyway. Now, you will notice tonight, earlier today, I know Stacey was doing a hell of a lot of photography earlier today. Round of applause for Stacey for all the photography. And my old colleague from the Herald Sun, now employed by the VRC, Jay Town, our official photographer tonight. So don't be shy when he wants to take plenty of photos of you, folks. Just the little bit of housekeeping in terms of, as you've noticed, Sean is doing an amazing job. It is table service tonight, as you will have seen from the acrobatics so far with the way the beers are being delivered. So let's not crowd around the bar. If you haven't been to this beautiful venue before, the toilets are down that end, through the doors down that end, particularly for those around the corner. And if you do need to light up tonight, if you need to have a smoke, just open the windows and just puff straight out of the... puff out. I think I might have got that wrong. Go out the doors you came in. Hopefully it's not raining if you do need to have a puff. Now, folks, before we do break for dinner, and this, I guess, is all about what tonight's all about, the magnificent trophy which is standing right in front of me. Sound like that bloke that Adelaide Crow supported, didn't I? Dr. Andrew Lemon is the official historian of the Victoria Racing Club, and he is going to join us, he's actually going to take over the lectern for the next 10 or 15 minutes just to tell you a little bit more, not just about this magnificent trophy, but also he's got a short interview with the great Des Gleeson. Des is doing double time tonight because he's going to be on one of the panels as well, and also about the Cup Tour. Please make him welcome Dr. Andrew Lemon, the official historian of the VRC.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes when they tell you the historian's about to talk, you all talk quietly amongst yourselves. So I'm very lucky that I'm on early, because I suspect later in the night you won't get much sense out of some of the speakers tonight. Also, the other reason for me to try and be brief is you're all hanging out for your dinner, and we might just have slipped a moment behind the schedule. So I will, instead of giving you my 25-minute lecture about the history of the Melbourne Cup, I'll just tell you what a fantastic day we've had at Port Fairy, and to thank everybody who's been involved in putting it on. So some of this has been covered by the introductions, but really just wanted to mention that the Melbourne Cup Tour takes this trophy around Australia and around the world. And today we've been at St Pat's Primary School, we've been at the Consolidated School, we've been at the Aged Care Centre, we've talked to individuals and we've told them this is the trophy that will be given to the winner. And one of the lines that I often say is, we may never see it here again. I mean, it could go to Ireland or some other strange place. And yet tonight, I come in here and there are 2 Melbourne Cup trophies here tonight, which is just fantastic. Nick Williams, thank you so much for bringing What a Nuisance's trophy down here tonight. Thank you very much. At St Pat's Primary School, all the kids were told to settle. Okay, just settle for a couple of minutes while I do this. And also next to it is that amazing dream trophy, the 2015, the Prince of Penzance Cup, won by the wonderful Michelle Payne. And you would think, what race in the world is going to have 100-1 winner coming in and be cheered home by the crowd? And particularly when she said a few choice words about the blokes on the way in. And then today I have this wonderful experience of seeing Tears I Cry in person with Anne McGrath, and I think that's an extraordinary story. Do you remember that? It's in history for a couple of reasons. One is it was the very first Group 1 winner ever to be ridden by a woman. Nikita Berryman rode Tears I Cry to win I think it was the Emirates Stakes. That's the one that changed its names every year. But anyway, 2007, the Stakes. It'll be called the Champion Stakes this year. And you remember Nikita Berryman almost as disbelieving as Anne McGrath up in the stands, and trained by a completely unknown guy called Kieran Maher. And of course, Tears I Cry was Kieran's first Group 1 winner. And Anne told me the story today that actually Kieran thought it was a bit stupid to enter the horse in the race because the entrance fee was rather expensive. So sometimes you can get lucky in horse racing, and so everywhere we go, there's history behind this race. So this will be the 163rd running of the Melbourne Cup. And talking to the kids today, I'm trying to say that's a long time for this race. And there's a lot of history connected with both Port Fairy and with Koroit. You had a race course here. Some of you, maybe at the retirement home, some of you might be old enough to remember the Port Fairy Racing Club, which operated down near the beach until 1953. And in those days, the Victoria Racing Club used to be in charge of licensing race courses. These days it's Racing Victoria. So you can imagine how excited Port Fairy was and how pleased they were with the VRC when they were told in 1953 that the course was too small and had to be closed down. So we haven't had races in Port Fairy since 1953, but you did have races here in 1846. So our racing in Port Fairy is actually older than the cricket club, and that's pretty old. So it's just, this is the magic of the Melbourne Cup. And so for us at the Victoria Racing Club, we say this is not our cup. This is your cup. It's the people's cup. It's our chance. You may never own, maybe Nick Williams might own one more, but most of us in the room will never get the chance to win a Melbourne Cup. But our chance is to take it around Australia, around the world. So this trophy has travelled internationally. It's here today. In 1 month's time, it'll be won on the first Tuesday of November, and here it is tonight. So that's really what it's all about. Thank you, Wally Sheehan, for explaining the idea of the Melbourne Cup sweepstake, which again is the VRC's way of saying thank you to the people of Australia to have a chance for each town to barrack for their horse. So I hope Port Fairy, I don't know about Jamaica, I don't think it got there last year, but anyway, I hope you win. Now, the other great thing about taking the trophy around is to have the opportunity to bask in the glory of having a celebrity or two nearby. And sometimes we take famous jockeys like Pat Hyland, who won the Melbourne Cup in 1985, and I certainly remember that well. But also race broadcasters, people like Greg Miles and Brian Martin have been part of our team. But also our guest, I mean, who else could we have as your special guest here tonight but the famous Des Gleeson? He belongs to Port Fairy, lives in Port Fairy. He's a number one ticket holder down there at the cricket club. He's an all-round legend. And Des, I'm going to ask him up here. Would you please welcome Des Gleeson? Thank you, Des. Bruce, do you think both of these microphones work or only one of them? Well, let's try before I... Now, while we're working out... It works. Okay, we can do a duet in a minute. But Des is somebody that I've had the privilege of knowing for a number of years. I used to admire his work from afar as a grandstand jockey. He had the amazing knack of a steward of being able to keep most of the jockeys happy most of the time, and still keep our racing, I suppose, honest, full of integrity. I mean, some people say racing, they give it a bad name occasionally, don't they, Des? But it's just been his career has been a fantastic one. So he'll can tell you a little bit about his own career, but I just want to say that Des had the honour of being the last chief stipendary steward. Stipendary means paid, so he did occasionally get paid. Stipendary steward of the Victoria Racing Club, and then in 2001 there was a change to Racing Victoria. So all the VRC does now is just run the Melbourne Cup and look after Flemington, and that seems to be a pretty full-time job. But Racing Victoria took over the, I guess, the arm's length administration of racing through this state, and took over the integrity and brought those things together. So from being the VRC's chief stipe, he became Racing Victoria's chief stipe, head of integrity. He follows I was going to say a long line, but actually a short line of stipendary stewards at the VRC. Some famous names, Pat Lawler and Jim Ahern in more living memory, Frank Bullock Jr., but some extraordinary people. I've written an article, Des doesn't know this, I've written an article for the Melbourne Cup magazine talking about the stewards. And there was one steward whose ex-wife found him so boring that she wrote some novels about him. And so if you want to read novels, 19th century novels by the novelist Tasma, you'll find out what a boring fellow her husband was. But so just don't ask your wife to write your memoir, will you, Des? Enough from me, Des. I was going, look, you've been here today and told the kids that one of your favourite horses was Vane, and there he is in front of you. One of my favourites too. My first Melbourne Cup that I ever saw when Rain Lover won. Vane won on 3 of those days on that Melbourne Cup Carnival. And then the mighty Crisp, the steeplechaser, who won the Cup Day steeple in those good old days when we used to run steeplechases at Flemington, went on to run an amazing second in the Grand National in England in 1973, ridden by Tom McGinley, was one of your fellow stewards for a while there, and Tom's still with us. But those are some of the memories. But Des, tell us perhaps about a couple of your favourite Melbourne Cup moments or stories that you never were prepared to share except in this room. Des.
Thanks, Thanks, Andrew. I've had a long involvement with the great race, the Melbourne Cup. I officiated at 30, and I've seen every Melbourne Cup since I retired. And every Melbourne Cup is special. The winners of the Melbourne Cup, horse, trainer and jockey, go into racing's folklore as winners of the Melbourne Cup, the race that stops the nation. But I do have some wonderful memories over the years. R1 won the first cup that I officiated, ridden by Harry White, who went on to won 4 Melbourne Cups to equal the record. I was there when we had the first protest in the Melbourne Cup in 1991. Bart Cummings had Let's Elope and Shiver's Revenge. Shane Dye lodged an objection against Let's Elope, and there was significant interference, but the winning margin was 2 3/4 lengths, so the protest was dismissed. But Bart walked into the protest room and put both hands up in the air, and he said, "I don't care what you do, I've got them both." And he did, he had them both. So the legendary Bart Cummings did train 12 Melbourne Cup winners, and that's something I don't think we'll ever see again. I was there when Mackay Diva won 3, and that's another thing that we'll never see again. She was a magnificent mare, and coincidentally she won each of her cups by exactly the same margin of 1 1/4 lengths. So she was dominant in each of her wins. I've seen the cup raise from an ordinary handicap race for Australian and New Zealand horses to the #1 handicap race in the world, which attracts horses from all over the world now, close to $9 million in prize money, and that will ensure that you do get the best quality of horses. But that all started in 1993 when a cagey Irishman called Dermot Weld brought Vintage Crop out. And when I say cagey, he not only trained Vintage Crop to win the race, but he orchestrated the best plunge that we've seen in the Melbourne Cup in my time. And it started when Dermot landed at Tullamarine both Drum Taps, which was a highly credentialed horse, owned by Lord Huntington in England and was to be ridden by Frankie Dettori. And it had won its 2 previous starts in England. And accompanying Drum Taps was Vintage Crop. And Dermot got off the plane and he said, "My horse has travelled pretty well, but gee, you should see the horse that came out with him, Drum Taps." And if I was a punting man, with its form and how it travelled, if I was having a bet this far out from the Cup, I'd be having a little bit on Drum Taps. And this continued as the weeks went on out of the quarantine centre at Sandown. Dermot was interviewed, he made himself available all the time, and he continued along the line. He said, "Look, the horse is going okay. I wish the Cup was another week later. I'd have him cherry ripe, but he's going okay and he'll run a good race. But did you see how Drum Taps worked this morning?" He said, "If I was having a bet even this far, I'd still be having a bit on Drum Taps. He looks an absolute picture and he's a highly credentialed horse." And Pat Lawler and I had a chat about it, and Pat said, "Look, there must be something wrong with Vintage Crop." So we sent John Burke out to Sandown to have a look at it. And he came back and he said, "The horse is fine, it's flying. Don't be surprised if it wins the Cup." But Dermot continued on this, and it was the Sunday before the Cup at the chairman's lunch. Dermot got up and he said, "Look, I'm telling you, the horse is fine, he'll run a good race. But if the Cup was a week later, I reckon he'd be that little bit better. But gee, Drum Taps has reached his peak, and he's the horse to beat, Drum Taps." And on Cup Day, I was standing in the mounting yard with Pat, and we watched the horses walk into the mounting yard, and Vintage Crop came in, and he looked an absolute picture, looked an absolute treat. And at that stage, Vintage Crop was 16-1 and Drum Taps was 7-2. And Dermot walked in with Drum Taps and we said, "Oh, how's your horse?" And he looked over his left shoulder, he looked over his right shoulder, curled the mow and said, "Spot on." And Pat said, "This might be the greatest con of all time." And at that precise time, Dermot's stable foreman went through the betting ring and had $1,000 cash with 10 bookmakers at 16-1. So it was not only a fantastic training performance, but it was the most excellent orchestrated plunge that we'd seen in a Melbourne Cup. But that was Dermot, a fantastic trainer, and he went on to win the Melbourne Cup later with Media Puzzle. I was there when Sheila Laxon won the Cup in 2001 with Ethereal, and Sheila goes down in the record books as the first female trainer of a Melbourne Cup winner. But if you look back through the books, in 1938 a horse came over from New Zealand called Catalogue, was trained by Mrs McDonald in New Zealand, and the VRC at the time were pretty lax really, and wouldn't allow females to train horses in Victoria. So when Mrs McDonald brought Catalogue over, she wasn't permitted to train the horse, so she had to transfer it into her husband's name. Catalogue went on to win the Melbourne Cup, and the name of the trainer was Mr McDonald and not Mrs McDonald. So I've said to Sheila on many times she may be a bit lucky to be the first female trainer of the Melbourne Cup winner. But overall, as I said, I've seen so many Melbourne Cups, but the one that sticks in my mind most is Media Puzzle. And I do get emotional when I talk about it because, as we all know, Damien Oliver tragically lost his brother in the week leading up to the Cup. And as chairman of stewards, I had daily dialogue with Damien, 2, 3, 4 times, phone calls backwards and forwards, offering him all the support that we could and encourage him to whatever decision he make, and telling him whatever decision he made, whether it was to come and ride in the Cup or whether he'd stay home and grieve with his family on the tragic loss of his brother, we'd support. And I said, the racing industry will support you also in whatever decision you make. And he rang me on the Thursday and said, "I'm coming over and I'll ride on Derby Day and I'll see how I go." The history books show that he rode on Derby Day. I think he had 5 rides, didn't run a place, was completely out of sorts, which was fully understandable. And in fact, in Damien Oliver's terms, he rode bloody terribly. And after the races, I went into the jockey's room and he was sitting there with Neil Pinner, and he was really very upset and said, "Look, I didn't do my horses any favours today and I don't think I'll be able to ride on Tuesday. I think I'll have to go back to Perth." And I said to him, "Look, the decision's yours. Once again, whatever decision you make, we'll support, and the racing industry will fully understand. But if you think about it overnight, get back to me tomorrow, and whatever you do will be the right thing, and we'll publicise it and make the suitable replacements." Well, he rang me on the Sunday at 11 o'clock, and he was a different Damien Oliver. He was buoyed up, and he said, "Look, Jason got a hold of me last night, kicked me up the backside and said, get out there and do your best and win the bloody thing." So he said, "I'll be there on Tuesday and hopefully I'll give it a red hot go." And we all know what happened. Damien rode Media Puzzle. He had a beautiful run in the race. He got out at the perfect time running around the home turn, kicked away at the top of the straight, and as he went past my tower at the 120 metre mark, it's the only time in my career that I did give the horse a kick in the ribs to make sure it kept going to the line. And after the race, it was just extraordinary for those of you that were there. The normal ovation for a jockey coming back after the Melbourne Cup is throwing roses and champagne glasses in the air. But on this occasion, everybody just stood and clapped and applauded, which was a great sporting moment and a great achievement under the pressures that he was under. And as the horses came back to scale, Damien's family were there and his close friends, and everybody had tears in their eyes. Patrick Smith was a journalist, a well-known journalist, and he had tears in his eyes, and he came up to me and he said, "You're a bloody cold customer if that hasn't got to you." And I said, "Well, what if he weighs in light or a protester's lodge? It's not over yet, Patrick." And he looked at me and he said, "Typical bloody steward." But when he weighed in and he handed me his whip and skull cap, And he leaned over and he said, "Oh, thanks for all your support." And that was the end of me, I can tell you. But it is the most memorable moment. And just further to that, when I got home from the races, I said to my wife, Helen, that when I retire, I'm going to get a picture of that particular finish because it's something that I'll never forget. And it was a great sporting moment. But I won't get it now because he's still riding, and if you've got a photo of Damien Oliver on your wall, I reckon you're doing favours. He won't get suspended when he should, which was not the case. But on the day I retired, it was in the paper that I was a guest of the Moonee Valley Committee and I wasn't working. And on the Friday morning, the secretary rang and said, "Oh, Damien Oliver wants to come and see you." And I said, "Oh, hell, I'm busy. Tell him 3 o'clock and don't be late," and he's got 15 minutes and that's it. And at 3 o'clock she rang and said, "Damien's here." I said, "Send him up." And she said, "No, you better come down." So I went down to the desk and here was Damien with this great big huge parcel with him, and I said, "What's this?" And I opened it and there was a photo of that 2002 Melbourne Cup with every single runner in the race, a side-on shot of the Melbourne Cup finish and a lovely little note from Damien to me, which once again set us both on fire. We were both sobbing like 2-year-olds at the desk in the office of the VRC. But that photo was at home, at pride of place at home, and it's something that I'll never forget and something that I really cherished from somebody who really showed what racing was about and showed the world that racing's not only a racing sport but a sport in general. And that, to me, remains the greatest memory of this great race.
Des, what a privilege to share those stories because you're on the inside and so much that happens discreetly dealt with, professionally dealt with. It's a credit to you all. And just two things to be said there. That Media Puzzle, of course, was also trained by Dermot Well, but the odds were a bit shorter that day, weren't they? And of course, the Dermot tried it again in 1995 with Vintage Crop, but he only ran a drum, ran third behind Doremus in that particular year. So look, the opportunity to celebrate our jockeys, not just the ones who are in the room, Nifty, Neville, Wilson, great names, but also our chance to think about those Melbourne Cup jockeys of yesteryear, the Bobby Lewises and the Tom Claytons, the people you've never heard of, the ones that go back to the beginnings of the Melbourne Cup. We've said enough. I think, Des, you're going to talk a little bit more tonight, maybe about Pat's great career. But before I leave here, I would just like to say thank you again to everybody at Port Fairy. This is an amazing turnout. It's not easy to bring a huge crowd like this together, all enthusiastic. I know you'll be interested in the Melbourne Cup. Steve Dwyer, I've got the honour of offering you a little thank you. We went down and had a look at the Port Fairy Cricket Club today. We see some very honourable and honoured things that happened there. Steve, would you like to step forward and I'd like to give you a small thank you on behalf of our community. Do you want to open that up? It's opened that way. So this is for you. This is your very own Melbourne Cup trophy in gold, made by the same makers as the Melbourne Cup itself, and it's to go into the pool room. It's to go into the trophy cabinet there at the cricket club. And I'd like to, on behalf of everybody at the Victoria Racing Club, to say thank you very much and congratulations. Thanks, okay. Thank you. Good on you.
Thank you, Andrew, and another round of applause for Dr. Andrew Lemon and Des Gleeson, who will be back up a little bit later. I'm actually sitting next to Steve tonight on the way up. He said, "Don't worry about the little one." He's intending on pinching one of the big ones on the way out tonight. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to break for dinner. The one thing I love about this great state of ours is the way we cross over with our love for all sports. And Dr. Andrew Lemon, who is the official historian of the VRC, his son Jeff is one of the best cricket journalists and broadcasters in the country, and he has just flown out to the Cricket World Cup, which actually gets underway tonight as we speak. So we are going to give an around the ground service tonight as well, because England and New Zealand are playing in the opening game tonight, the finalists from 4 years ago. England none for 12 after 9 deliveries, if anyone's interested or could actually give us stuff. Otherwise, we won't keep you updated. We'll enjoy our dinner and we'll be back with our first panel for the night. And don't forget, $5 entry for the quiz. Do your best. Thanks, folks. We've got 4 coming up for the first panel, so this is going to be like herding cats. In no particular order, please welcome back the great Gleeson, the best wearer of a pork pie hat in Australia. Nifty Neville Wilson, 77 years young next month. The great Frank Beattie, of course, a steward for 55 years. I hope he knows that he was going to be on the panel. And also Pat Ryan. Please make Pat Hyland's brother-in-law as well. Take a seat, guys. Take a seat and take a microphone.
Does it work?
I haven't met Frank yet, and I think he's as surprised. Did you know you were going to be on the panel, Frank?
No, I did not.
Okay. Shh.
Yes, Frank.
Ladies and gentlemen. Okay, as we said, 2 quick panels. Panel of 4 is with these luminaries. We'll try and keep it short and sharp. Des, we will start with you though, because while we've got so much magnificent hardware in the room tonight, the 3 Melbourne Cups, it's very, very disappointing, and I'm getting the feedback already that the Gleeson hasn't been worn tonight. So where is it? And do you get asked about the pork pie more than your glorious career, which you explained to us so magnificently earlier?
Yeah, well, I do get asked about it a fair bit, but and I had 30 or 40 hats at home, but through various charities from time to time, somebody asked for an autograph hat, and I've managed to get rid of a lot of them. So there are no Gleesons left.
True or false, and preparation is the key to emceeing functions like this. Did you, back in the 1970s, for a while, rock a purple-coloured pork pie hat?
That was one of my worst decisions. When I was appointed a steward in '72, the secretary of the SWDRA was a chap called McEwen, I think. McKeon? Or? Yeah. McEwen. And he said to me, you start work on next Saturday at Penshurst, now make sure you go and get a hat. So I went to Crammond and Dixon's, it's a store in Warrnambool, and they specialised in men's hats, but the room was very dark. And I tried on this hat and it fitted beautifully. And it wasn't until I got home and took the hat out of the bag and put it on, and Helen said, "The bloody purple hat, what are you doing with that?" So then I had to go back to Crammond and Dixon, buy a purple suit to match the hat. I got hooted from pillar to post on the first meeting at Penshurst, and that was the only time I wore them both.
And I can remember when I was about 5 or 6, so around that time, one of the hit songs was The Purple People Eater.
I copped that.
How often did you wear purple, Nifty?
Not very often.
There's been a lot of conjecture tonight in the room because a lot of people get very competitive when a quiz starts, and we don't want to see any pens moving quickly now. So it's roughly more than 20,000 rides in your magnificent career. How many actual winners did you pilot and steer home?
2,069.
Including 5 Group 1s. Are you, and once again, sorry for continually making analogies back to footy and cricket, Glenn McGrath famously can talk through every one of his 563 Test wickets. How many or what percentage of those winners would you have a vivid memory or recall of?
Not many.
You're killing me here. Best horse, well, we spoke off mic before. Is it, you had a sensational career. I told you earlier, I'm not just making this up. You were my mum's favourite jockey. She backed a lot of winners when you were on board. But the fact that you never got to ride in a Melbourne Cup, is that one little blot on an otherwise pretty impressive CV?
Well, I rode in the Caulfield Cup. I rode in a Cox Plate and fell off. Citizen, yeah. But I was down to ride Citizen as a backup for Mick Dittman. He got suspended, but he appealed and got off. You shouldn't have done that, Des.
And we're not getting ageist, but you actually started riding when Sir Robert Menzies was still Prime Minister. And if I'm correct, he died 45 years ago and he hadn't been PM for about 15 years.
I don't know about that.
Okay. I'll stick with the stats. Pat, good to see you. Now, you've got to be honest here, and with your answers, better with the microphone up to your face as well, rather than. But that's okay. I spoke to someone very close to you today. I know who that was. Okay. Through our mutual involvement in football. Now, for such a magnificent horseman, can you share with us here in the room tonight, once you'd retired, how did you used to pick your quaddie numbers every Saturday?
Never had a quaddie in my life. I've never had a quaddie in my life.
Is that working, Alex? Yeah.
And I'm too scared to say because I'm surrounded by stewards.
You're allowed to bet now.
Can we hear Pat down the back? Was that? No. We might have to swap round the mics. That's it. That's a dead one.
As Elvis would say, thank you very much.
Right. So you said to all of us just then you never had a quaddie in your life.
Yeah. Well, who told you that?
Yet one of your sons told me today that the way you would pick such a fine horseman, so much knowledge of the magnificent thoroughbred industry, but you would have the same quaddie numbers every week, the last four numbers of your home telephone number.
623.
So we got you.
My dear late wife used to pick them, not me. I just used to put them on.
Oh, okay. Clearly.
But I do have an apology to make. I was 30 winners short. I said 2,039. Sorry, Nev. Apologise for that.
Your son also said today, well,
I've got to have a serious talk to him.
Yeah, no
I
doubt
know
about
who it is. He's a bloody AFL umpire. Yeah.
And he's a barrister as well, so you better
I
be
know,
careful
yeah.
what you say to him. He remembers one day when you got the quaddie with 6323 and your first comment was, right, all of us off to KFC.
Yeah, right. So?
You're killing me too. How about you talk us through the day? Now, it's not quite Flemington on the first Tuesday in November. Oh. But what about the day you rode the cart at Koroit?
Yeah, Frank rubbed me out for a month, same day. Oh, no, it was McDonald. Doug McDonald, yeah.
Wasn't Frank, he's sitting right next to you. He didn't do that.
Yeah, but that's a long, long time ago. I'll tell you how long ago it was. That was when they raced at Koroit. And that's... 360. Yeah, a long, long time ago. And I was probably scared. I led on every one of them, so...
Do you remember the day vividly?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Highlight of your career?
No.
What?
No.
What was then?
Kicking me AFL umpire up the arse.
That sounds like it's still to come.
No, I did. Look, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing here. All the Hylands here, Pat Hyland, as you know, was a legend, and I'm here talking about riding a few winners at Koroit. For God's sake, give me a break. Are you serious? Are you serious?
I'm never serious, not on a night like this.
No, neither am I.
No, that's the idea. We're meant to be having a bit of fun.
Yeah, I know, we are.
We are.
I've got to have a very serious talk to Sean, haven't I?
I know. I'll give him a heads up. I'll text him when I get off mic and say,
No,
avoid Dad. Oh, I thought you were going to go.
No,
Okay.
I'm waiting for you.
I'm going to have a chat to
I'm
Frank
so
now.
embarrassed.
No, don't be embarrassed. We're loving it. Now, Frank. 55 years as a steward. You were just getting warmed up, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Tip that round so we can all hear.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's just, no, that's right.
I've
Another
always-
55.
I've known Des for a long time. I've never asked him this question. Once you retire, can you actually disengage from being a steward in terms of the way you watch races? Or because it's so ingrained, you still always have that official / integrity?
Oh, well, you're still doing some of the things that you used to do. Yeah, like you're watching, sitting home watching the races and you're looking at what's going on and just saying, oh, yeah, what's going on? Yeah, happening there. What's this bloke doing? What's that bloke doing? That sort of stuff. That's all. You just sit back and watch.
And as soon as you step down as well, is that when like you start getting tips and coat tuggers and you get the good oil and the good mail, or?
No, I've never had anybody come and tug the coat on that sort of thing, and you just wouldn't entertain it anyway.
This is post-retirement though.
But look, I don't punt, and never. Oh, you haven't through that. I don't punt, and I'm not interested in punting actually. Sit down and watch the races. I like racing. That's where I am. Yeah.
Fair enough too. What was the highlight of the 5.5 decades for you? Obviously, as the main steward at the Bull.
Oh, I don't really know. Look, I suppose just being there every day is a good day. And look, you're just looking at every race. Every race is different. Every race is, what you take it. You're just looking at who's in it, what's in it, and what's going on, and just every race is there. That's it. So you just go on to the next one. Yep.
Question to all of you as giants of the industry over a long, long period of time. So can you find that, well, you spoke so eloquently earlier, Des, as you always do, but can you find the right words to describe the magic of this race? I mean, as we know, racing is 24/7 in this state, in this country. It's part of the fabric of our great nation. But the first Tuesday in November and the iconic nature of the race, which is now global. Can you find the right words to describe what it means to you?
Well, when I was working, you understood it was rated the race that stops the nation. But when I retired and took the cup around the length and breadth of Australia and New Zealand, that I realised what it means to so many people. And to be honest, the VRC are the custodians of the cup, but it is the people's race. And it is the race that stops the nation. And no matter where I've been, whether at Albany, Darwin, Rockhampton, Hobart, Invercargill in New Zealand, everybody knows what the Melbourne Cup is. They all recognise the trophy, and they get so much pleasure out of coming up and getting a photograph with it and getting up close and personal to the Melbourne Cup. And every winner of the Melbourne Cup is etched in racing's folklore as winners of the great race. So it is a very, very unique race. This year's the 163rd running of the famous race, so it's steeped in history as well. And it's the #1 rated race in the world, but it is magical race for sure. And only great jockeys win it. And Pat Hyland, we talk about Pat Hyland winning the Cup in '85, and what a wonderful rider Pat Hyland was. Yes, and he was, yeah. Can I just run through a funny? Matthew might remember this. Pat was a very good rider, and he rode very few bad races. And if he rode a bad race, there was generally an explanation, like the horse drew out wide and couldn't win, or it was in a 1,200 metre race, it was too short. but there was always a plausible explanation if Pat rode a bad race. It might have been planned that way, but there was still a plausible explanation. This day at Caulfield, Pat and Matthew were in the same race. I'm sure Matthew's conveniently forgotten about this, but running to the home turn there was interference and Pat's horse was checked, and it was caused by young Matthew. Do you remember this, Matthew? And we got the riders in the room, and
There's been a fair bit of amnesia in the room already tonight, Des. It's fair to say.
we generally asked the riders who suffered the interference, did they cause interference, or did they suffer interference? And Pat said yes. And I said, what caused it? And he said, you know. And sitting beside him was Matthew. So we said, Matthew Hyland, yes, he shifted in and caused interference, and Matthew was subsequently suspended for causing interference to his father. You'd think he'd protect him better than that, but he was a wonderful rider, Pat Hyland, and I was telling Matthew earlier in the day that he rode a horse in the VRC Oaks Group 1 race called Rom Stiletto. Rom Stiletto was owned by very close friends of Marie and Pat, Pam Lamaro, and named after her late husband Rom. And Rom Stiletto was a really, really good filly over a mile and 10 furlongs. And she was in the Oaks and suspect at the 2,500 metres. So Pat went out and he smothered her up behind the leaders on the fence, rounding the home turn to give her every possible chance to see the race out. And she had a very dynamic 200-metre sprint. And the gap opened at the top of the straight and Pat waited. It's too early. If he went then, he'd probably get run over in the last 50 metres. So he waited. The gap closed. Approaching the clock tower, a half a gap opened, and Pat's gone bang, threw it like a lightning bolt, didn't cause any interference, kicked away and won the Oaks, and it was a ride that had to be seen to be believed. It was a fantastic ride, and I said to Pat one day, it'll go down in my memory as one of the best Group 1 rides that I'd seen, and Pat looked at me and he said, you might be right.
Magnificent. Back to the first part of that response, I reckon the extra punishment would have been answering to Dad over the dinner table maybe later that night. But we're going to come to that. Don't think we're not. The second panel is all about Pat with Matt and Sam and, of course, Nick Williams to join us very shortly. So just a couple more questions. In fact, a final one to the rest of you. Nifty, so you didn't get to ride in a Melbourne Cup. When you watch the race each year, do you look on with envy? Do you look on with pride because you've been such a big part of the industry? What emotions does it stir up in you?
Not really. I love watching it. You know, it's just the race that stops a nation, they say. But I've just got to say that Pat Hyland was a great mentor for me. He was president of the Jocks Association. And for a leading jockey, I was a bush jockey, you know, and he was a great mentor, and he just proved he fought and fought for the rights of jockeys, and he was a fantastic bloke, and he taught me a lot, and I was president of the Jocks Association after Pat for 20 years, and I take my hat off to Pat. He's a fantastic bloke.
Beautifully said. Pat, to you, obviously, as the great man's brother-in-law, so your memories of him as a rider, to watch him, to obviously have that close personal relationship with him as well, what memories does that stir up in you?
Well, it stirs up a lot of memories because, as everybody said, it's true. You've got a young kid coming from Port Fairy, and turns out to be one of the greatest riders in Australia, in the world, and wins a Melbourne Cup. But you don't have to say any more, do you? It's amazing what he's achieved, and a young fella from Port Fairy, and I think it's amazing what he achieved.
Well said. And I think he was, is he one of only 8 or 9 that rode a Melbourne Cup, Caulfield Cup, Cox Plate and a Golden Slipper.
Yeah.
I think only 8, maybe 9 have done it. And finally...
It's a big effort, isn't it?
Unbelievable. Frank, obviously you rode against Pat as a kid before you hung up the irons. So your memories of the great man.
The great man. Well, I'll tell you what's this here. What actually happened, we were in the same stable at one stage, very early in the careers. And I tell you, down at Mordialloc, a Saturday because I was about, much the same height, I suppose now. It might have been a foot shorter.
6'3", yep.
Shrunk a bit, yep, okay. But look, I was about an inch or so taller than Pat, but I was about 6 or 7 pounds lighter than him. And what you used to do on a Saturday night was the only night of the week that you had off, and what you would do is they had like a carnival around more, and you'd go down and you had these blokes that try to guess your weight. And so Pat used to go first, and they'd say, 6 stone. Yeah, like Pat was about 5 stone 10, 5 stone 12, something like that. And so then I would go next, and I'd say that, and they'd look at me, and I'd say about an inch taller. They'd stay, about 6 stone 3, 6 stone 4. But I was only 5 stone 7 at that time. So the blokes were out, so you used to get the prize at the time, just for that.
Frank, we're running short of time, so I'm sure, ladies and gentlemen, because we are about to break for dessert, and then we're going to wrap up the official part of the evening with the Hyland boys and with Nick Williams, who we really appreciate coming down tonight as well. Round of applause. Des Gleeson, nifty Neville Wilson, Frank Beattie, and brother-in-law Pat Ryan. Okay, we are going to break for dessert, and then Bruce Leishman's going to come back up, and we're going to work out exactly how we've stuffed up the quiz, but who is going to win the prize. So if you could put your the folding stuff in the envelopes, and we'll be back during dessert with the correct answers. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You can do better than that. Round of applause for a magnificent video put together on the legendary life of Pat Hyland. Okay, it is time to complete the evening with our last panel. Just one last stat as well regarding which beautiful narration throughout that video. It was the first Melbourne Cup 1985 that the great Bruce McAvaney actually called. So obviously it was on Channel 10. One of the greatest sports broadcasters this country has ever had. And What a Nuisance was the oldest horse to win the Cup in 30 years. A 7-year-old hadn't won the Cup since 1955, which was Topper, which beat a pretty handy horse by the name of Rising Fast, who of course won in 1954, and then it wasn't won again by a 7-year-old until Vintage Crop in 1993. So with that as the backdrop, please make welcome now the Hyland boys, Matt and Sam. Please make them welcome. And we like to use, there's only one, when you speak of the word Leviathan, it can only mean the Williams family. Nick Williams, ladies and gentlemen, as well. Please make him welcome tonight. Nick, I might start with you, because we know the 1985 Melbourne Cup is here tonight, and we thank you for A, attending, and B, bringing it with you. Once again, it's a football analogy. I do a lot of work with Jimmy Bartell, who has got 5 magnificent trinkets, 3 premiership medallions, a Norm Smith medal, and of course a Brownlow medal. And he honestly, hand on heart, has no idea where they are. Now, your family has got 7 Melbourne Cups. Can you, hand on heart, say you know exactly where all of them are?
Yes.
Would you like to expand on that?
They're sitting in my living room. Oh, no, they're sitting in a very safe place. In a bank vault somewhere, given the VRC have just told me what they're worth. No, we know exactly where they are. Do you want me to expand further?
Yeah, I do.
Well, I'm not going to answer your question. I want to say something that's important. I've been thinking a lot about Pat Hyland today, obviously. 3.5 hour drive down here that I thought was 2 hours when I left, but anyway. I'm a frequent visitor.
I had a bet with a mate that you came down on the helicopter.
No, I didn't. But I did loan a car, so I didn't put the Ks on mine. That's true. There's one racing photo in our family that my father holds dear. It's not any one of the 7 Melbourne Cups or the God knows how many Group 1 races he's won over his career or anything like that. It's the 1973 Navy Day Handicap. Now, there would be only one person in this room that would understand the significance of it, and that'd be Marie. And it was a horse called Cautious Sue, trained by Noel Kelly. And my father often says to me, if it wasn't for that result, we wouldn't be standing here today. And that was ridden by Pat. And the horse had won the CUNY at its previous start. The CUNY at that point was a 2,000 metre race. Pat had suggested that to Dad, who was a stupid punter in his mid-20s at that point, that let's back it up over 7 furlongs. A couple of weeks later, they'll all think it can't win. And it won by an inch. But it was a very, very, very significant win. And so that photo has pride of place in my father's life, as does Pat and the entire Hyland family. But let me just fast forward for 1 minute. If I could go, I was an orphan to the Hylands, Kellys, Smiths of the world, the racetrack really. My father was obsessed with the horses. But in 1984, and we saw the fall here, I've never seen someone more distraught. And I don't mean for a day or a week. And I'm not going to use the language he often used about it, but all he wanted Pat to do was retire after that fall. And there was words like pig-headed, stupid, this, that used, but he loved Pat and Marie and all the family, and he just, that day I think was the worst day in my father's life. And for the next 2 or 3 months, when Pat was in St Vincent's, Hospital back in Melbourne, and Dad was distraught, and he said, I just can't get him to retire. And every night all I heard was, Pat won't retire. No, God, I felt like going to St Vincent's myself and telling him to retire because I was sick of hearing about it. But in all seriousness, so then for him to come back, and Dad and Pat have, apart from being friends, which is more important than anything, they'd had enormous success on the racetrack for so many years together, enjoyed each other's success, enjoyed each other's families, great friends, all of that. But for that crowning moment in 1985, it was the greatest day of my life because I thought, finally, I'm going to get my father back. He won't need to race any more horses. We can actually do something. I'm 16, I'm thinking, this is fantastic. Well, as Lee Friedman actually explained to me many years later, I'd been infected with this disease early in my life that's, as Lee said, racing is a disease only cured by death. And that was true, but I just didn't know it at the time. But to see those two on that day, it's still, without question, my father's proudest moment on a racetrack. To have won with his mate. He's one with a few people that aren't his mates, but to win that day with someone who he'd had such a long association with, and I go back to saying to you about 1973 Army Day Handicap, or Navy Day Handicap, I don't know. It's one of the armed forces anyway. God bless you all. But, in all seriousness, what a great man, what a legend. And I'll just leave you just quickly with one thing. I don't think Vane was that good. If you think about it, Roy Higgins got beaten on it twice. Clearly it was the jockey that made the horse.
How much is there to unpack from that? Well, Vane, of course, If you follow racing, 14 starts, 12 wins, 2 seconds. We might come back to Vane. From Matt, you being older than Sam, so we're a similar age. You would have been about 16, 17 when Dad had that horrific fall, 5-6 months before he wins the Caulfield Cup on Affinity. Can you remember at the time what it was like and the pressure on your dad to retire, not just from the Williams family, but just talk us through and unpack what it was like around that time?
Well, I think Bruce, Mum would probably explain it better than anyone, but yet you're right, I was probably the same age as Nick, around about 16, and I was an apprentice jockey to Jim Maloney at the time, and obviously that fall happened in Adelaide, and what I do remember, and what Nick failed to say was, Lloyd rang Mum and got Mum to, or got Dad to, from Adelaide, organised a flight to get Dad from Adelaide back to St Vincent's in Melbourne, and got him to the best surgeons possible because he'd shattered his shoulder or whatever, and it's totally underestimated what Lloyd did, not only for Mum. I remember going to Lloyd's place with Mum at the time, and I was only 16 years of age, and he was going to move heaven and earth to get Dad the best possible care. So I think that is totally underestimated. It just showed the friendship and the relationship that they had during that period of time. And but it was interesting beyond that when, through the recovery period. I mean, I was 16 trying to make my way as an apprentice jockey at the time at Jim Maloney's, and Dad was on the sideline, so he was probably sort of observing my progress as an apprentice jockey. But I know there was numerous conversations that Mum and Dad had, on the beach at Maui, as you do when you're really struggling and you're battling away. You go to Maui and lay on the beach and talk about the future. I mean,
and leave your
kids at home.
Leave your kids at home.
Yeah,
leave your kids at home.
You could be at Phillip Island or whatever, but Dad tells the story, and not that Phillip Island's a bad place, but anyway, Dad was sort of in retirement mode, and he was seriously, he was done, and he didn't want to sort of carry on. And Mum was the one that was instrumental in saying, this is not the way you want to retire, and you've got more to do. Probably the fact that he had 6 kids. I'd left home. I was making my own way and earning my own living. Samuel was a significant drain on the resources. But anyway,
he was 43 at the time, wasn't he? He was 43 at the time.
43 at the time. Samuel was hard work, and so was Patrick. But anyway, some of us were sort of paying our way. But anyway, Mum said, you need to get on with it. You really need to come back, and you're not really ready to retire, and I'll get you on a diet. Like he was, I don't know what weight he would have been, but it was sort of a 6-month injury or longer, and so they both came back. Mum will correct me if I'm wrong, but they got on the Pritikin diet. Dad got back to, fitness and full health. I can't remember whether there was a machine that I think Lloyd might have bought or whatever to help Dad's rehabilitation. I mean, all that sort of stuff. No one knows that goes on, but it happened. And he got back and he won the I think he won the Caulfield Cup the following year, and then he won the Melbourne Cup the following year after that. And it's like they say, it's not down to just the individual. The individual needs absolute support. And all I can say is, my mother's treated my father like a Melbourne Cup favourite, and she still treats him like a Melbourne Cup favourite. And I think that's why he got to the heights he got to. And we're all proud. We're all rapt to be here, and I know his family are rapt to be here. I just think it's terrific.
Very well said. Very well said. So, Sam, you're a decade younger than the three of us. Same hairstyle as your brother and I, though.
Yes.
So, as we know, hair's overrated.
Runs in the family, doesn't it? Pat was the only one. He had a good head of hair, Pat.
He had a voluptuous set of feathers right throughout. Yes, very jealous. So what was it like being up? What was it like growing up with having your dad as a very, very famous jockey, and with knowing how popular the sport is in Melbourne, being such a well-known figure and such a well-known name?
Yeah, I think, Dad was, he was such a hard worker, Dad, and my memories, obviously I was 8 when Dad won the Melbourne Cup, and so I was a good bit younger than the older siblings, but I just remember, it was Saturdays especially, Dad would obviously get up, he'd be off to the track, he'd ride work all morning, he'd come back, he was straight in the sauna. It was like, it was Saturdays was game day, it was a big day, and I'll never forget, for as long as I can remember, Dad saying to me, there's only 2 people, when the phone rings, there was no mobiles in those days, there's only 2 people I will come out of the sauna for, and that is Lloyd Williams and John Griffiths, right? Do not get me out of the sauna. So I sort of realised pretty early on that they were pretty important in life, those blokes, and they were, it was Bruce that back then it was all about the punt, and I'm sure Nick will be able to vouch for this, Nick and Matthew, that back in those days in the 80s, the punt was a big thing, and well, even earlier than that, wasn't it, Nick?
In the 60s, 70s, I think there's probably a couple of farms in our family and a couple in yours as a direct result of it, I think.
So yeah, I think I just
none of us would be here.
From those early days, I just remembered how focused Dad was and how dedicated he was to being the best he could be and delivering, and he was just hardcore horse racing, and do you know what? That's where there's 6 kids, and we're all like that. We all love horse racing as much as we did back in those early days, and it's so fantastic to be able to come back to Port Fairy, to Dad's hometown, and see this turnout and such a fantastic function tonight. And it's we're I'm sure I can speak for everybody. We're really proud. It's great.
As you should be. So Nick, in terms of Sam touched on the pecking order if the phone rang. It's legendary what a hard taskmaster your father has been. Is it fair to say that Pat, therefore, he sat, if not right on top of the tree, he was a very elevated perch?
If my father was here right now, Pat's number 1, and he's number 1 in the manner that Vane used to win by. And then there's someone else number 2, and then it's Field. And it's, there's only 2 people my father's got any, he says, I'd know nothing about racing if it wasn't for Pat Hyland and subsequently Tommy Smith. But, he I don't know whether I should be happy or sad at this, but, it'd certainly be a lot better than me if he had a lost interest in racing in the early 70s, I can tell you, if you see the accounts. No, he's very matter-of-fact about it. It's Pat Hyland. He's the top of his tree.
Sam probably won't be able to remember, but to either of you, can you? It's a long, long time ago, as we know, 1985. We're talking 38 years. Can you remember anything of post-race that night, the next day, the level of celebrations? Talk us through what the memories are of.
I can remember being on Channel 9 the next morning on the morning show. I can't remember the bloke's name, but I think he was pissed.
It's on. It's actually on that USB.
Yeah, and I
the host.
Yeah, I can't remember who the guy was, but I remember he had rides on Oaks Day, if I remember, and they were for Lloyd. And Dad tells the story really, really well, and said that. They went to Florentino's, I think, after the Cup. On the Wednesday. Although I think they went out that night, and then they went for lunch, and lunch turned into dinner, and Mum will remember this. She's a bit of obviously a night owl as well, and so they got out and got right on it. And anyway, I think when lunch on the Wednesday went through to dinner, Dad said, Dad said to Lloyd, I've got, 3 rides tomorrow and they're all yours, and I've got to go home, mate. This is, I've got to go back. You got rides tomorrow, and Lloyd said, yeah, no worries, I'll sort that. He went outside, he come back, he said, you're all sweet, I've scratched them all. And so I think he, he turned up.
Dad famously says, they got up, they walked outside, and then they cleared the table, put new tablecloths and cutlery and everything, and then game on, let's go again. Righto, here we go. I mean, how good? That's how it should be.
Matt, I'll come back to you in a tick about riding against your dad, but Nick, in terms of what we're sitting in front of, can you find the right words to describe? I mean, the Williams family isn't just a great Victorian family, you're a great Australian family, and forever, once we're all long gone, still be associated with racing for decades and centuries to come. But can you try and find the right words to describe your father's fascination, intrigue and dedication to winning as many Melbourne Cups as he possibly can and could?
Yeah, it's really easy actually, because he's come up with the words. It's called an unhealthy obsession. And I can't think of anything better, and it's absolutely true.
But have you asked him over the years as to what... Like, he's won 7 of them. He's the record holder now. Yet he still remains... You've had a runner in the Cup for each of the last 11 years. Is he still as obsessed as he was back in the mid-'80s when What a Nuisance became his second winner?
Yes, he is. And really, he calls it an unhealthy obsession. But what it is, and it's... I go back to Pat Hyland. It's about weights and measures and prices. And whilst my father hasn't been a punter for a long time, he grew up in an era where there wasn't TV replays and there wasn't racing.com and form guides and things. And you had to survive on your wit. And he understands the weights, where horses are, the form, as well as anyone in the game. And really, he loves to test himself against the handicapper and the other horses and how to beat the handicapper and try and be a bit smarter than the next guy to do it. And I tell you what, it is a very dark art, and there's very few people left in the game today that can do it. And, I blame Pat. He got him into it, but, that was an obsession. It really was. And, you can't do it today because there's too much information. But, in the old days, and I'm not saying it's anything shifty, I'm just saying that the whole idea was that, you had to actually, it was before computers, you had to do things longhand. You actually had to understand the game. You had to watch the race through binoculars, and understand and be able to read the races. And, it's... What they used to do, it's seriously an art form. And, there's none of those old school punters around anymore, but that's what it was about. It's about beating the handicapper and putting yourself to advantage. And they were bloody brilliant at it. There's no question about it. That's what my dad does today. He sits there and looks at the fields and thinks, gee, look at that, it's 20-1, it should be 5-2. And he goes, and he brings me all the time. He goes, these people don't understand what's going on here. And I'll tell you what, 8 out of 10 times they win. It's amazing, because it's a different era. The world's changed. And that's what he does, and that's what he just tries to test himself against the market.
Further to that, Bruce, Pat might have been a bit quiet on What a Nuisance in the Moonee Valley Cup. Just rolled around, didn't he?
He wouldn't have done that.
He was ready on the right day, though.
Ask Des. Of course he wouldn't have done that.
He was ready on the right day, and it was, and he got a super ride, didn't he? Had all the luck, and it was just a great day, and something that in all our family, obviously, we'll never forget.
What it comes back to is, and this is what my father learnt off Pat, to win, not just to plan a big race win. It's got to be a plan. You can't just think, there's a big race on next Tuesday, let's run. It might take 18 months to, What a Nuisance was a 2-year plan. He was just about fed by Marie out of the kitchen window. You know, I'm not actually joking. He spent his life on their farm, you know, in training. You know, that was to stop Johnny Marr sending him mad. But anyway, I'm only joking. But in all seriousness, you know, it's a planning exercise, and that's what, you know, whether it was Tommy Smith and Pat taught Dad, and Dad took it. You know, you've got to be careful what you tell my father about planning, because then he takes it 15 levels more. And does drive a few people mad along the way, wouldn't, you know, to make it happen. But that's what a nuisance was, a 2-year plan to win the Melbourne Cup. And that's what, you know, Pat was great at it, about understanding, you know, what Sam says about a quiet ride in the Moonee Valley Cup. Well, it's sort of half right, but it's not exactly right, because the horse was ready to go 2 miles, but he needed that gallop to do it. And, you know, so you've got to, you know, everything's a stepping stone to grand final day. It's like Collingwood this year. God, I thought they had no chance. I thought they had no chance because they weren't in form.
Do we have to bring that up? No.
But you know what? Craig McRae, what a great planner. He had them peaking on the right day, and it's like racing, and that's what they used to do, and that's why you see Pat Hyland having won all the big 4. And so many major races around Australia, because he knew what you had to do on horses on the way through to get them right on the big day. That's why he's a legend.
30 Group 1 winners. Very well said again, Nick. Sam, how's he going? Give us an update. We know his health isn't great, but
I think Matthew would be best to Matthew. Sees Dad a bit more than I do. I'm obviously based in Brisbane, but I saw him yesterday and took the Melbourne Cup with him, and he was thrilled to bits. And we went and had a coffee, and he was in good form. But Matthew, you spend a bit more time with him than I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, obviously, Dad's got, he's got Alzheimer's, and that's a tough thing to sort of deal with. Tough for Mum, and tough for everyone in the family, but look, he's comfortable and happy where he is, and as I said, Mum looks after him like a Melbourne Cup favourite, and he comes home most days to Malvern, and certainly us that are relatively close by try to get to see him as often as we can during the week, and his usual. Actually, my wife mentioned to some people that came over on grand final day and were sitting down, and they said, "Oh, how's Pat going?" Kate said, "Oh, he's terrific. He's still flirting with Marie." So, which was, look, it's he's as good as can be, and he's happy and he's comfortable, and he's is it ideal? Well, of course it's not, but he's 82 and he. I don't know. Every time I go in there, I say, "What are you doing, mate?" And he says, "I'm waiting for you." I say, "Oh, right, like he's just is what it is, and but he's all right. He's good. Yep.
And that's good to hear. Keep going while you're hot. What was it like to ride against him? Particularly, you're circling behind the gates. Like, would you take a sneaky look over? And,
I can tell you, he was like when you're a son of a gun and you come into the fold, and you're 16. Back in those days, I had my first ride when I was 15. So, I'd sort of hit my straps once I got to about 17. And you go into the Metropolitan Jockey's room, and your old man's there, and he's sort of holding fort in the rooms. Everyone, I don't know who to compare him with in the current rooms, but maybe an Mzara. Maybe very vocal, very, everyone was sort of like, well, Nifty would probably speak better on it than I would, but tell me if I'm wrong, Nifty. But, I'd ring him up some mornings and say, "Can you bring a £1.5 saddle?" And he'd go, "Mate, get your own saddles, just get your shit together and sort yourself out." And I'd be like, "Oh, right, no worries." And then you turn up there and, everyone would be going, you go out to ride and you'd be sitting there, and I might have 3 rides, he might have whatever he's got, and he'd go out there, and mind you, I'd started to kick a few goals, so I started thinking I was all right too. And everyone would come up to you and go, your old man's a prick of a bloke. Jeez, he's an ordinary bloke. You know, he just abuses the shit out of everyone. And I'd be thinking, God. And I remember saying to him one day, mate, you just got to be a bit nicer to people. He goes, mate, you'll learn. You'll work it out. You know, you don't have to be nice to anyone, mate. Just do your own thing, right? No worries. But I'll tell you one story, which was Des told the story earlier about me getting suspended. But this is how competitive my old man is, or was, or my first experience. I remember going to Flemington and I was claiming 3, and I was starting to kick a few goals and thought, you know, I'm going pretty good, you know. And I was, you know, I'd go there with 6 rides and he'd go there with 3, you know. And you could sort of half see that he was, you know, he didn't want you to get ahead of yourself and all that sort of thing. And I remember I was going to ride a horse called Lucky Witch, which was for, I'll never forget it, at Flemington, and it was favourite. And I think it was Gary Hanlon that trained it. And Dad rode a horse for Jim. And Nifty would understand all this sort of thing back at Flemington in those days. And the crossing used to be at the half mile there. And I've box-seated this thing and he's parked up outside me, the old man, you know, and we got over the crossing and I was starting to get a bit itchy and I'm thinking, you know, like this thing's favourite on a Saturday at Flemington, you know, and I'm, you know, and he's going, no, stay. And I'm sort of half trying to give him a shove to get out. There's 2 in front of us that one's going nowhere. And he's going, you're right, stay there. Just stay there. I'll let you out. Stay there. And we got over the crossing and I'm thinking, and he's there and he's going, stay there, you're right, stay there. This says he's talking in the race, you know, and I'm thinking...
Lucky you didn't have a listening device, Des. Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, this is my old man, he's going to let me out, he's going to give me a free kick here and let me get out and get clear and get home. I'm still sitting there, and it was favourite. No, I pulled up, I think I ran 4th, he got beaten ahead, he didn't even win the race, and he never let me out the whole way, and I pulled up and I just said, what's that? And he goes, mate, you got to be a bit sharper than that, you know. I'll never forget it. And I went back in the room and I think Pat had us in. Pat Lawler came in, you know, and he put the video in and Pat Lawler was laughing, you know. He's sitting there and he's laughing and the old man's going, I don't know what he was doing. He was pushing here and pushing there and I'm going, I walked out and I thought, that's my old man. Well, so you learnt quickly, that's how competitive he was and, you know, we had plenty of... It was a great period of time for me. You know, I think I'd finished riding before he finished riding, so I rode right through the journey of sort of 5 years of riding and Dad was riding. And, you know, he's a great competitor and it was great to sit there in the room and watch him, you know, go through his paces. But
What a nuisance won him the Melbourne Cup, but we've touched only briefly on the great Vane in the late 1960s, the number of Group 1s that it won, 12 wins from 14 starts. Would that have been his favourite horse? Like, if he was, this is throughout the 90s and the early noughties, what was the horse that he'd talk about most around or across the dining room table?
Yeah, it was always Vane that was the best, he said, the best horse that he rode and the best horse that he'd seen. And obviously when Black Caviar came around and there was obviously chat when they used to, you know, talk about Vane against Black Caviar and, you know, Dad used to always say that it's really not fair to do that and you know, put that horse up against that horse in 2 different eras like that. But, you know, I guess just to highlight the fact that Flemington week, that Spring Carnival week of Flemington, Vane won 1200, the Craven Age Stakes. He won the Linlithgow on Oaks Day, and then he won the George Adams on Stakes Day. So he won 3 times in the week. And I remember Dad saying, I don't think Black Caviar could have done that. So, you know, it's... it's who knows, but he was such an exciting horse, and Dad, you know, used to say that he came along for Jim Maloney and Dad at a time of their career where they needed a kickstart, and this horse did that for them. You know, they went to Sydney, the first Victorian to win the Golden Slipper, and had their name up in lights, and then they carried on together. And I think something that we are also proud of is the fact that, you know, our relationship with the Maloney family, and the fact that Dad's left Port Fairy, and Jim Maloney used to say that Frank Hyland said to him, "He's yours now." And that was it. He stayed his whole career with Jim Maloney, and that's a pretty special thing, I think.
1956, the Olympic year in Melbourne. We are virtually out of time because we've still got a couple of things to clean up after this, particularly the auction. So to the three of you, it'd be remiss given Sam, you obviously work these days for SEN Track. We'll get you over to 3RW one day as our racing correspondent. Nick, obviously with the ownership hat on. Matt, I'm not sure whether you're allowed to tip or give observations as the CEO of the Jockeys Association, but we've got a massive spring carnival right on our doorstep again. So maybe a closing comment about what we've got to look forward to over the next 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah, well, I think it's such an exciting time from now on, isn't it? The races just keep getting better and better, and you know, it's an amazing thing. You know, I stayed at Peter Lafferty's last night, and we went round Warrnambool this morning, took the Dad's Melbourne Cup trophies around and went into the bank. And the Melbourne Cup is one trophy, as Laff said, that you know, everybody recognises this trophy, and you know, everybody just everywhere we went, they just went straight to this trophy and wanted to get photos and selfies. And what a special thing that's what the Melbourne Cup does, isn't it? It's such, and you know, we just keep, from here on, we just keep building to the Melbourne Cup. And Bruce, I think Vauban is a really exciting horse. Willie Mullins is an absolute master trainer in Ireland, and yeah, it's I can't wait to see this horse Vauban. But I think he's a serious stayer. He's in the race well, and I think he'll win the Melbourne Cup.
Lock it in, Eddie. Nick.
I wish I had first go at that. There's absolutely no value. 7-2 or something. But Vauban, he'll win like Vane, I think. You know, Vane's a much better horse than Black Caviar when I'm watching these tapes tonight too, by the way. Much better horse.
There's our headline, Tim.
Yeah.
I'll be back page Warrnambool
Much
Standard
better
tomorrow.
Horse. I think Willie Mullins, Ryan Moore, 55 kilos. He's thrown in. He's just about unbeatable. I think you got to head to the Caulfield Cup for some value. I think Chris Waller will win with Salcombe if it stays on its feet.
That's the one all the Tiger Boys own, isn't it?
It is.
It is.
It is. That'd be my tip. I think it'll shorten up in the Melbourne Cup, but I don't think it'll stay. But I think Vauban is if it gets there in good shape, they won't beat it.
Well, given the amount of money in the room tonight, it'll be in almost even money by tomorrow. Matt, last word for you, because we do need to wrap up our second and final panel.
Give us a tip from the jockeys, Matt.
Exactly.
They keep it to themselves.
Yeah, no.
Everything's off the record, by the way, tonight, folks.
Yeah, no, I won't get into the tipping stakes, but I'll let the experts get involved in that. But I just hope that we have very little suspensions, because that makes it a very quiet week for me, and it means that I don't have to get too involved in too much. And hope they all get round and everything sort of moves along smoothly. And it's good to be. I'll tell you what, it is good. I was at Moonee Valley last Friday night, or Moya Stakes night, or whenever it was, and you just get a feeling that racing, as much as we always think we're trying to be competitive with the other states and everything else, I feel like, as someone who goes to the races once or twice a week, and I just feel like that, you know, we're going to get back to where we need to get to, and you know, the vibe feels like it's there. And my kids asked me for 10 tickets for Caulfield Cup Day, and they're 24 and 25, so that sort of tells you that they want to get there. So that's what I hope. I hope it's good, clean racing and everything goes well, and no suspensions, and I can have an easy couple of weeks. You know.
Anyway, one more thing, and one much more important thing. Big night tonight. I would have thought so. In the West Indies, isn't it? Isn't there a great Australian cricketer playing in the West Indies from this very club? Would that be right? That's
well,
or have I got bad advice? The women's.
Oh, the women's.
Yes. Oh, geez, they don't even know their own players.
There you go.
God Almighty, you got to get. Yeah, that's
Georgia
it.
Wareham.
Yeah, well, there you go.
From down here.
Shouldn't.
There you go.
There you go. Another champion of your club.
England is 7 for 245, by the way, against the Kiwis. Okay, we do need to move on. I know you'll join with me in thanking them for magnificent anecdotes, insights and memories. Nick Williams, Sam Hyland and Matty Hyland tonight here at the Wharf. Okay, folks, to wrap up, I do need to call Wally up because we do have to run a very, very quick auction. We'll move that on straight away. Wally, you're going to introduce our auctioneer, and then we will wrap up the evening. I know we've run over time.
Thank you very much indeed. You better take that one, Simon. You got one? Thanks, Bruce. Thank you. No worries. Rightio. Oh, we got the.
You going to sell?
The amazing spotter in Nigel. Right. As soon as we finish here, we've got 6 auction items. I'll call on Damien Gleeson to move a thank you for tonight, but I've got to make my own personal thank you to Nick. For Nick Williams, for taking my call 3 months ago and being so good tonight. So thanks again, Nick, for doing what you did. Thank you very much indeed. So rightio.
You're going to hold this stuff up?
Yeah, what are we doing first?
Whatever. We'll do the silks first.
No, they're last.
They're last?
Rightio.
We'll do the Grange first.
What are we doing?
Do the Grange. Grab that Grange over there, mate.
Rightio. Thanks to Cole Cleary, we've got a bottle of Grange. So Hogs has got it there. So rightio, over to you.
Rightio, ladies and gents, we'll get the auction underway for you now. Hey, now listen, plenty in the room tonight, so if we don't see you, please just put up your hand, yell out, do whatever you want to do if you want to have a bid. Anyway, we'll get through it as quick as we can, ladies and gents. So on the wine there, hey, 2013 drop of the Grange. Hey, on that one there, who's got 500 to go? 500, 500, 400 surely. 400, yep. 400, yellow bid, 400, right, I bid 400 bid. I bid $400, right, I bid 400 bid, I bid 400 bid. I bid 450. I bid 450 now. I bid 450, right, I bid 50 bid, I bid 50 bid, I bid 50 bid. Yep. I bid 500. I bid 500, get there now. I bid 500 bid, I bid 500 bid. I bid 550. I bid 550 wall. I bid 550, it's all left. I bid 550 and out it's going to go. At 550, yep. Done, 6. I bid 600 now, I bid 600 bid. I bid $600. At $600, done. Quick, want it. 50, way out. I bid 50, way out. I bid 50, bid, I bid 50, way out, wall. I bid 50, way out the back. At 650, done. Quick, 700. I bid 750 now. I bid 50, all right. I bid 50 bid. I bid 750 to me. I bid 750, way right. At 750, done. Quick, hold on. Goes to Nick. Thank you very much, Nick. Thank you very much. Rightio, we'll go on to Hearns Villa. Yep. Rightio, Mickey Hearns Villa out on the South Beach. There at Port Fairy, we've got 2 nights off peak.
Off peak, yes.
Off peak. Lovely villas out there, ladies and gents. Say hey, low and quick there, $700. 2 nights off peak. $700. $500 and start me surely. 500. I bid 500, thank you, bid 500, bid, I bid 600 way back. I bid 600 way back now, bid 600 bid. I bid 600, you gone, Wall? I bid 600 way back. I bid 600 way back. At $600 done. Quick. I bid 50, thank you, I'll do that, do the same. I bid 650, take your 50. I bid 650 down here. At 650, you're gone. At 650 done. Quick. Hold on. Right there. Thank you very much.
So we'll do the
Warrnambool
Racing Club.
Just explain that, Wal.
So the Warrnambool Racing Club Port Fairy Cup is on the same day as Croyd Cup, middle of January. We've got a marquee with 10 admittance tickets.
What date is it, Walt? Between Christmas and New Year, isn't it?
No, it's about the 20th of January.
Oh, yeah, well, a bit after that.
Yeah.
Rightio, there we go, ladies and gents. Courtesy of the Warrnambool Racing Club. No, it's just the tickets. You got a 10 for 10 tickets. There you go. Hey, low and quick there, 300, 250 and start me. $200 anywhere. I bid $200, thank you. I bid 200 bid, I bid 200 bid, I bid 200 bid, I bid 200 bid. I bid $200 here. I bid $200, take a 50 anywhere. I bid 50 way back. I bid 50. I bid 50 way back there now. I bid 50 bid, I bid 50 bid, I bid 50 bid. I bid 50 way back. 300. I bid $300 now. I bid 300 here. I bid $300 right there. You're out, sir. I bid $300, 50. I bid 50 now to me. I bid 50 bid, I bid 50 bid, I bid 50 bid down low. I bid 350 low quick. At 400 fresh horse. I bid 400 way back. I bid $400. I bid $400 low quick done. At $400 done. 50. I bid 450. I bid 450. You're still out, mate. I bid 450 way back left. I bid I'm way back left. I bid 450 way back left. At 450 done. Quick. 500. I bid 500 low near me. I bid 500 into me. I bid 500 bid. I bid 500 bid. I bid 500. I bid 500. 50. 600. I bid 600 to me. I bid $600. I bid $600 near to me. At 600 done. Quick. Hold on. Georgie Dumsley. Thank you, Georgie. Now you got your VRC.
VRC tickets. 4 tickets to Champions Day, which is the old Emirates Day, the 4th day of the Spring Carnival. 4 tickets into the members.
Rightio, 4 tickets to the members. Probably nearly one of your better days racing too as far as horses go. Rightio, 4 tickets to the VRC for Emirates or Champions Day last Saturday, the Flemington Carnival. Rightio, low and quick there, ladies and gentlemen. 600, 600, 500, 500 and start me. $400 surely. What's that? I bid 700, thank you. I bid 700 bid, I bid 700 bid, I bid 800. I bid 800 now, I bid 800 bid, I bid 8 bid, I bid 8 bid, I bid 8 bid, take a 50 anywhere. I bid 800 low quick right. I bid $800 bid. I bid 800 way right. 50. I bid 850. You're gone now, boss. I bid 850, all right. I bid 850 bid, I bid 850 bid, I bid 850 bid. I bid 850 way left. I bid 850 way left. 900. I bid 900 to me. I bid 900 low quick here. I bid $900 all right. I bid 950. I bid 50, round him up, $1,000. I bid $1,000 to me. Great day. I bid $1,000. That's not you. It's down here. I bid $1,000. No, $1,000 here. I bid $1,000 here. You want another one? I bid $1,000 here. I bid $1,000 all right. 50. I bid 1,050. You're gone, boss. I'm at 1,050. At 1,050. Done. Quick. Hold on. You win it, boss. That's you. That's you. Oh, yeah, righto. Righto, what do you got up first, mate? Righto, on the silks, kindly donated by Hyland's Racing Silks. Rightio. The blue with the white armbands, what a nuisance. Hey, there you go on that one there. What would be worth $1,000? All cased up, ready to go. $1,000. $1,000. 800. 800. 500 surely. I bid 500 right, I bid 600 now, I bid 600 bid, I bid 600 bid. Have a look on here. I bid 600, it's way right, I bid 700. I bid 700 all right, I bid 7 bid, I bid 7 bid. You're out now, sir. I bid 8. I bid 8. What do you think, boss? I'll take a 50 to help you. I bid 50. Do the same. 900. I bid 900 right, I bid 900 bid, I bid 900 bid, I bid 900. Way. I bid 900. Take another. I bid 50. Round him up, sir. I bid 950 near to me. I bid 950 near to me. At 950, done. Quick. $1,000 with a yep. Who was the yep man? That was him. That's all right. I thought this bloke just said yep. Just might have been a nervous twitch. I'm at 9.50, all right. At 9.50, done. Quick. Goes to Matthew. Now the vein colours. Grab that other one, Walt, while we're on a good thing. Here we go, the vein collars. Here we go. What about Imperatrice? She goes all right too.
Hasn't proved anything yet.
Righto. Here we go, boys. Hey, what do you think that one? $1,000 quick. $1,000. 800. 800. Well, 700 surely. 700. 500, thank you. I bid 500, I bid 6. I bid 600, I bid 600 bid, I bid 600 bid. I bid 600, 700. I bid 700, 8 now. I bid $800 bid, I bid 8 bid, I bid 8 bid with 900. I bid 900 now, I bid 900 bid, I bid 9 bid, I bid 9 bid, I bid 9 bid. I bid $900 near to me. 50. I bid 950, round him up, sir. I bid 950, round him up. 1,000. I bid 1,000, all right, I bid 1,000 bid, I bid 1,000 bid. At $1,000, out she goes. At $1,000, done. Quick. All done. Go to Sam. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, buddy. We done? I think we are. It's all up to you, man.
Not going to keep you very much longer. In about late March this year, Tim Old come to me and he said, Damien, no, I won't. I promise I won't keep you long. Tim Old come to me and he said, you got to put in for this Melbourne Cup. You just got to do it. And I said, well, I can't. And I'm counsellor, you know, this, that. And he said, oh, fuck. He said, you just got to do it. He said, I'll tell you what to do. Anyway, so I took it to heart and I went to my office and I got on the website to apply to bring the Melbourne Cup to Port Fairy. So I knew that our key to success was Pat Hyland. There's no doubt about that. What's your connection to the Melbourne Cup? It's Pat Hyland. So I filled the thing out and everything and then Tim said, what'd you say? What'd you say? I said, I can't remember because I pressed submit and then it just disappeared. And it went to the VRC. And then the VRC rang and said, oh, we haven't received your application. I said, oh, I've applied. Joe, I promise you I've applied. And I said, look under your junk mail because it's come from a pub email address. It's come from info@the-Star Hotel. So he went into his junk email and he found it and he said, yep, we've got it. We're right. Thank you. What grew from that has been amazing. So I'm not going to thank all the people that we've thanked along the way today, and even our little committee of 5 have been thanked. So, but I just want to make mention of a couple of things. Firstly, particularly Nick Williams. So Wally rings Nick Williams out of contact through Sam, and Nick 100 times. But I'll never forget this, Nick, and you said to Wally, I will do anything for the Hyland family. And you said that. So we're on a winner for a start. The fact that you came down here and represented Dad and told the story, your connection to the Hyland family is phenomenal. And everybody in this room is privileged to hear that, so thank you. To all our little table captains, I will go through there. Well, I'm not going to go through them, but we picked about 10 people and said, you got to sell tickets. This is going to be one of the greatest events the town's ever seen. And it has been one of the greatest events the town's ever seen. But I do want to say, particularly, obviously, to the Hyland family, what a privilege it is for us to be able to bring you together. And I mean that. So our connection to the Melbourne Cup is Pat. So we get Pat's wife, his sister, his brother, his brother-in-law, his sons. Like, to get you guys here and to make the excuse, Sam, to come down from Queensland. Matty, to be here tonight, just to have the excuse to be here. How privileged we are to make that happen. So thank you to the Hyland family. Thank you. I feel pretty funny up here. I'm playing with all these notes and going, I haven't even got any notes up here. None of them are mine. I remember Sue and I were in a pub in Geelong and we would pay $200 to travel to Melbourne to go to the MCG or to go to the Jeff's shed to a function. And we've actually just brought that to you here tonight. The Port Fairy Cricket Club have just brought that to you here tonight for $150 to come along to a world-class function. And not only what we did, but what about the Wharf restaurant? How they got 180 meals out like they did, got them off. How they got 180 desserts out, got them off. To Wayne and Sean and your staff, unbelievable, and thank you. Unbelievable. So we can only sit 120. I said, I'll still show you to fit 180 in. Wayne did fuck all. I've been told as a counsellor you're not allowed to use the word fuck. Wayne did fuck all. Right. Can I just say, I said to Wally as I stood back and go, we've got it here, you guys have got to run with this, the cricket club have got to run with it. And I said, but the success of the night is the sound system and the AV. Fitz Media, step in. We can do this. I mean, how awesome. And just sit there and have dinner and watch Vane run around and then watch, and I got pretty good odds on What a Nuisance late. But to, you know, like everything we asked them, can you do this, can you do this, just give us the thing and we'll sort it out. So this is a magnificent event. It's everything that I wanted it to be when I applied for the Cup to come to Port Fairy. The cricket club picked it up and ran with it. Today, the Cup, and you've showed them on the thing, the Cup on the river. I remember Joe O'Neill said, sell your town. What's our town? Well, it's everything. The river and the beach. So we put the Cup on the river with Des, Andrew. Then we put it on the beach with, this is one of the proudest moments when I rang Anne McGrath and said, would Dad be involved? Oh, would he love to be involved? I rang her yesterday. I said, are we still going to meet at Battery Hill like we used to in the old days? And she said, Dad's down in his room trying on his jodhpurs. And he turned up with the collar, the tie, the full clerk of the court's uniform. And that time, and then I'm getting cranky going, get him to the surf club. We've got a time frame. And Channel 10 are running them up. Oh, he couldn't do that again because we want footies because I'm telling you, watch Melbourne Cup and that beach is going to feature. I'm telling you. Anyway, look, cut the long story short, I want you to stay for another 2 or 3 hours. I want you to have another 20 beers each. What a magnificent event for Port Fairy. But on the back of Pat Hyland, to you guys, thank you. Thank you for supporting us. Well done. Cheers.
Can I just say one thing? Great night. I'm just a bloke from the audience. But for a kid from 14, from Frank Hyland, died when he was young. All the kids are young. Ronnie Hyland raised all the kids. And this 25-year-old kid fell in love with some 17-year-old bird. And they were 57 years married. So to Marie Hyland, I know you want a quiet night, Marie, but stand up, please. So in recognition for all your good work to the Port Fairy people, Tim Old, everyone, 57 years married, and to all the Hyland family, and to all the Hyland family and Pat Hyland in good care in Melbourne, who she sees every day, and the love is never extinguished. Trust me, what a wonderful family, the whole Hyland family, and to Tim and everyone else for organising. For me, Hyland, Pat Hyland, put your glasses together and raise a toast and thank you. Beautiful. And you're still as hot as when you first met him when you were 17.
Ladies and gentlemen, that there's really nothing more to add. I just concur with everything that has been said. It has been a really wonderful night. I thank you for inviting me down to have the privilege and honour of being your MC tonight. It's been an emotional night. It's been a memorable night. For all the right reasons, we're on the cusp of another magnificent spring carnival. The Hyland name will live long in the glorious racing history in this country of ours, long after we've all gone. But I thank you all for attending. I thank you for supporting your town, for your cricket club, for the Hyland family. Enjoy the rest of the night. The only thing I can't say, I'm not sure where the after party is, but thank you, good evening, God bless, and may the photo finishes go your way. Thank you.